Hey guys, it's Kira and welcome back to another vlog. I feel like I often try to start vlogs on a positive note, so I feel like I say the phrase I have an exciting few days coming up, maybe a little bit too much, but genuinely do try to see the positives in things, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I did want to let you know before I say that statement again that I am not just crying wolf and using the phrase excitement too liberally, because tomorrow I'm doing something that is so undeniably, irrefutably, absolutely exciting that I can't even believe it's finally here, and that is that I'm going to be going to London tomorrow, but not just for any old reason. I'm going down to London to go and see the theatre adaptation of A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, and I'm so excited that I can't even believe it. I think this book is such an incredible book, and as soon as I found out that there was going to be a theatre adaptation in London, I booked my tickets and I was just so excited, and it's felt like I've been waiting for ages, and realistically it's only been maybe like 3 months since I booked my tickets, but it feels like a lot longer, and now that the day has finally arrived, or almost arrived, that I can actually go and see this adaptation, it just doesn't even feel real, but I am so excited. But I need to put all of that excitement aside for just one moment, because I wanted to let you know that today's video has been very kindly sponsored by Ana Luisa. Now, many of you will know that Ana Luisa is a brand that I have worked with for quite some time now, because it is a jewellery brand that I absolutely love and wear every single day without fail. I absolutely love just wearing Ana Luisa jewellery all of the time because I work from home, and I feel like working from home you can very easily get into a rut of just wearing the same old things all of the time, just wearing activewear, which is what I'm wearing right now, and basically just like rolling out of bed, getting to your desk and not really having to like get yourself ready for the day, because all you're doing is moving from one room in your house to another room in your house. And while working from home absolutely has its perks and I personally love it, I also feel like from that perspective it can be very easy to just feel like you've gotten into a bit of a rut with your appearance, whereas I always feel like wearing Ana Luisa jewellery and just adding that little bit of sparkle into my everyday activewear outfit always makes me feel just that little bit more put together, and like I've actually made an effort. And although it's just like a tiny little detail, I feel like it can be just those little things sometimes that make such a difference to like your overall like mood and attitude and energy level. And I know that might sound a little bit dramatic, but I do just think taking that time to just put something on that makes you feel good can just make such a difference to your day. And for me, I think just adding that little bit of sparkle into my outfit every single day and wearing my earrings, wearing my necklaces, it just makes me feel like ready to take on the day and just feel like that little bit better about myself. And I don't know if anyone else can relate, but Ana Luisa are a brand that is all about elevating your everyday, and that is a statement that just feels so true and relatable to my life. So I absolutely love Ana Luisa, and since it is spring, a new season, and tomorrow I have arguably my most exciting day of 2023 so far coming up, I decided to treat myself to a new necklace, because I felt like a theatre trip was definitely an event worthy of a new piece of jewellery. So I picked up this beautiful air sign pendant. So for anyone who isn't into astrology, just to clarify that each of the like astrological signs, so I'm a Gemini, also has an elemental sign. So the Gemini sign is an air sign, and I absolutely loved this air sign pendant, and I feel like a special connection to the air sign because not only am I a Gemini, but also my mum is a Gemini, and then my brother and sister are both Libras, so we have like this great balance between two Geminis and two Libras. But Gemini and Libra are also both air signs, so I felt like I feel a special connection to the elemental sign, just because I feel like it's like a nice like family union kind of thing. I don't know if that sounds silly, but I for one really like it, and this pendant is just absolutely gorgeous. I also feel like sometimes star sign jewellery can be a little bit too in your face and obvious and maybe come across a little bit tacky, whereas because this is an air sign pendant, and they also of course have like the earth, water and fire versions for anyone else who's interested, they're a little bit like subtler, I guess, and it's like a nod to your star sign without being too in your face. So I absolutely loved this. I thought it was beautiful and I could not resist treating myself to it. So I'm going to be bringing that one out for the first time tomorrow to the theatre, and I cannot wait. But I wanted to let you know that if you are interested in treating yourself or maybe someone else to a piece of jewellery from Ana Luisa, you can always use my discount code KiraFoster20 to get 20% off. So enjoy, knock yourself out. There is something for absolutely everyone on Anna Louisa, and I for one love them. So moving back on to tomorrow's extremely exciting event, I'm going to be going to see A Little Life, and I cannot wait. I think it is truly the most exciting thing that I've done in a long time, and I haven't been to the theatre in a very long time either. I couldn't even tell you the last time I went to go and see an actual play in the theatre, but the cast is incredible. We have James Norton starring as Jude, and James Norton is an actor that I absolutely love. He has played Prince Andre in War and Peace, which is the first role I saw him in, and absolutely thought he was incredible. He's since been in Happy Valley, which is also amazing, and Little Women, one of my all-time favourite films. So he has just been in so many great things. And there are also actors from Bridgerton and It's a Sin, both of which I think are absolutely incredible. So I just think all signs are pointing to the fact that this is going to be a truly remarkable piece of theatre, and I can't wait to go and see it. And I just feel like I don't know what to expect. I'm so excited, which is obviously a positive emotion, but I also know that this is going to be a really emotional day because the book itself is obviously really like dark and disturbing, and just like a really sad reading experience. It's definitely like a heavy book, and so it's one that stuck with me and is so impactful. But I'm also like wary of the fact that the play might be like really difficult to get through because of the fact that it is such dark material. So I've got a mix of emotions, but most of all I am just so excited to go and see it because I think it will be incredible. And if the book is anything to go by, I think it will be such an impactful experience, and one that I definitely wouldn't want to miss out on. So that is my most exciting plan for this week, and I felt like it was definitely vlog worthy. Of course, I won't actually be able to take my like camera or anything into the theatre because especially given like the nature of this play, they've sent around a lot of communications about making sure that your phones are off. They're going to be covering up people's cameras and all of that kind of stuff because it is obviously very sensitive material that's going to be covered. But I will bring you along for the journey to London. I'm going down with my friend Sarah, and we both cannot wait, and I'm sure we'll be trying to get in a few like foodie spots and things in London while we are on the way, and then we'll give you our review of the play when we're on the way back because I think it will have a lot for us to talk about. But for now, it is Wednesday still today. I'm just on my lunch break, but I am still working today, so I'm going to get back for an afternoon of work, and then at some point later on today I am going to choose a book to bring with me. I'm currently midway through a reread of A Little Life, so I will chat to you about that throughout this vlog as well. But given how chunky this book is and the fact that we're only going down to London for one day, I think I might try and pick a slightly slimmer book to bring with me so that I can just slide it in my bag and it doesn't feel like I'm weighing myself down with a brick. So there we go. Welcome to the vlog. I hope you're as excited as I am, and if any of you guys have also got tickets for A Little Life, maybe you've already been to see it because it has started the run now, let me know in the comments down below because I would love to share my excitement with you as well. Like this is going to be the first of many cups of coffee today. I am so excited, but also we've had an unexpected plot twist in the turn of events that I thought was happening today. So of course yesterday I mentioned that I was supposed to be going down to see A Little Life with Sarah, my friend, which was obviously going to be very exciting to go and see it together, but Sarah is ill and has told me at literally like 6:30 this morning that she's not well enough to come to London. So the very last minute I'm now doing a solo trip down to London. I'm leaving the house now pretty much in a few minutes, and it's just after 7 AM, and I don't get back into Leeds train station tonight until just about 10 PM. So it's going to be a long day, and I feel like the loneliness is only going to hit me when I'm on the way back, when I'm waiting at King's Cross, and then when I'm on the train journey home, because that is when it gets past my normal bedtime and I start getting really sleepy, and I'm really concerned that if I don't drink enough coffee I'm gonna end up falling asleep and end up in like Edinburgh because I forgot to get off the train at Leeds. So fingers crossed coffee sees me through the day. Aside from that, it's going to be a solo trip today, which is obviously really sad, especially for Sarah, because this is a limited run production, and the remaining tickets, which there are not many of right now, are really expensive. So because she's unwell, that's pretty much her like only chance to go and see this production, which is really sad. And of course I just have a spare ticket now, which seems a shame as well, because I don't have anyone to give it to, seeing as it is literally the day of the play and I don't know anyone who could just drop work at such short notice to go and see a play. So I'm going to be going to see it solo, unless randomly someone like turns up in front of me and begs for a ticket, but I don't see that happening. So chances are I'm going to be going to see A Little Life solo, and I've just picked out the books that I'm going to be needing for my journey. Again, I wasn't really thinking I was going to be doing a lot of reading, I was going to bring a backup book, but now that I'm going solo, I think books will definitely be a little bit more necessary. So first up, we have a book which I'm very excited for, keeping it in line with the theme of adaptations, because I want to read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is just about to be turned into either a movie or a series, and I can't remember which one, but I know that it's coming out very soon. So this is one that's been on my radar for quite some time. It's a book about a woman essentially who like has this long-term relationship, potentially even a marriage, I can't quite remember, but then her partner or husband ends up being like lost in a plane crash and assumed dead, and so years on she's managed to work through her grief, move on with someone new, and then her husband kind of comes back and it turns out he isn't dead at all and he's been found, and then she is left with this horrible decision to make about like which life she chooses essentially. So I think this will be really interesting, and it's one that is like not quite so deep and dark as A Little Life, because I wanted something that was maybe a little bit more uplifting but still has enough grit to keep me interested. I've also downloaded the audiobook for Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton, which is his memoir, and I'm very excited to read that because I've seen a lot of good things about it. And finally, keeping up with that adaptation theme, which was slightly unintentional, but I love the fact that we've got a theme, seeing as we're going to see an adaptation, and I'm now reading two books that either have adaptations or will have adaptations. And the final one is in light of the news that we had from Warner Brothers / HBO Max this week, which is that the Harry Potter series is getting a new TV adaptation. I don't know exactly how to feel about that, because I feel so fondly and nostalgically about the original Harry Potter movies. I loved the movies long before I'd ever read the books. I actually only ever read the books a few years ago, not when I was a child, but I grew up watching the movies and I think that they were so well cast and so well done. So I have mixed feelings about a new adaptation, and I think the casting is going to be really hard to do because we're still so fond of the original actors who played the characters, because it was still so recent in history that they're still very fresh in our minds. So I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but I'm definitely excited to find out. But knowing that it is going to be readapted and remade into a TV series has kind of made me feel like it might be time for a reread of the Harry Potter books, because I haven't done that in quite a while. So the first one, of course, is The Philosopher's Stone, so I'm going to bring that with me because these are both books that are quite slim, won't take up too much space in my bag, and then I can just bring them along with me. I've also got headphones to listen to my audiobook, and with coffee along the way, I think I should be good, and hopefully I'll make it back to Leeds in one piece and I won't fall asleep on the train. So there we go, I've rambled enough. It is time to head down to London to go and see A Little Life, and I'll catch up with you at some point throughout the day. London, and I found myself a beautiful sunny spot to eat some lunch before going to watch the play. But I just wanted to give a quick reading update because I managed to read way more than I expected on the train. I am now on page 243 of One True Loves, and this was exactly the right sort of thing to bring because that made the train journey go so quickly. It was unbelievable. But this book was really gripping, and I'm so excited to see how it ends when I finish it off later on the train home. But what I've read so far was kind of exactly what you expect on the tin in terms of like this description of these two very different romances in very different circumstances kind of being brought crashing down by news that our main character never expected to get, which is that her husband that she thought was dead was obviously not dead and was coming back, and she had to make this life-changing decision. So you kind of know exactly what you're getting when you go into this book, and yet it's still really heart-wrenching, unexpectedly so, because it's like you know exactly what you're about to read, so you don't expect to find it so emotional. But for me at least, it was actually quite sad from both different romances, because there's kind of no way for everyone to be happy in that circumstance. So really enjoyed it and excited to see how it ends. But for now, I'm gonna have some lunch and then go watch a play. My dark under eye circles are probably speaking for themselves at this point, but suffice it to say, I am very, very tired today. Yesterday was such a long day, so intense and such a whirlwind. I left the house at 7:30 in the morning and didn't get home and into bed until about 10:30 p.m. So I was out of the house for, I want to say like 15 hours, but maths is not my strong point. I was out of the house for quite a long time, but it went by like that. It was just such a quick day and so intense, but also ultimately so incredible. And I still feel kind of dazed and like I can't believe it actually happened, because I was anticipating yesterday for what felt like so long, and I was so excited about it that the fact that it has actually happened and the day has been and gone just feels a little bit surreal to me. So I'm still processing all of my thoughts, and because I'm so tired, I probably am going to end up sounding a little bit delirious as I try to summarise my thoughts and emotions about yesterday's events. But before I dive into, I guess, like what is fingers crossed going to be quite a succinct review of A Little Life, the theatre adaptation, I did want to share a little cheesy motivational memento, we'll call it, because I in the past have definitely been guilty of being the sort of person who doesn't do things on my own. I would say that I can fall into a bit of a dependency complex, we'll call it, where I always feel if there's something that I want to do that I need to convince someone else to do it with me, or I just won't do it. So whether that be going to try out a new yoga class, going to the gym, signing up for a running race, trying pottery, all of those kinds of things, I feel like I need someone with me to do it for the first time, and I so rarely will just take the leap and do something on a whim for the first time just because I want to do it, regardless of whether I have anyone else with me. And so yesterday I'd obviously booked these tickets with Sarah, and I had planned to do this with someone, and would I have booked the ticket on my own originally? Probably not. I might have been self-conscious about going to the theatre on my own, but circumstance had other plans and it meant that I was going on my own whether I liked it or not, and it was such an incredible day. I really, really enjoyed the experience, and I felt like not only was the day in and of itself just a wonderful experience and one that I feel so lucky to have had, but also I felt like it was just such a great life lesson for me in that I do not need other people to do the things that I want to do. It's great to share experiences with people when the opportunity presents itself, but equally I can't rely on other people to do the things that I want to do. You just have to take opportunities for yourself, and this has just been such a great learning experience for me, because now I know I can do stuff like that on my own, and I had an amazing time, and I would definitely go to the theatre on my own again, and I'm actually going to be looking for other plays to go and watch because yesterday's experience was so good. So just wanted to share that because I feel like a lot of people have that same experience of not wanting to do stuff on their own and being self-conscious about it. But yesterday was just such a great example for me that you absolutely can do things on your own and have a great time while doing it. So if anyone else needs that little push, a little nudge to go and do something that they've been thinking about but don't have anyone to do it with, let this be your reminder, because I had such a great time even though I was solo for the day. But now, putting all of that motivational speaking to one side, let's dive into a little life. Now, I have so many thoughts, so many experiences and emotions to share that I feel like I'm going to be rambling and waffling. So in the interest of trying to be as succinct as possible, I've summarised my thoughts into a few different categories, and I just wanted to share some thoughts about the experience of seeing this theatre adaptation because it was incredible. And if anyone isn't interested in hearing all of my thoughts but just wants a quick summary, let that summary be it was amazing and I would recommend it to everyone. I think it was so well done and such an incredible cast. On the subject of cast is casting. Now, when I was talking to you yesterday, I had mentioned obviously that James Norton for me was not only the star of the show in a literal sense because he was playing the main character, but the star of the show in that if he had been playing any single character in any play, I would have wanted to go and see it because he is just incredible and he absolutely lived up to my expectations. He was amazing. We also had Luke Thomas, who I know from Bridgerton, and he was playing Willem. He was amazing as well. Such a great fit for that character, I thought. And then we also had Omari Douglas, who I had seen in It's a Sin, and he was really incredible playing JB. I feel like in It's a Sin he plays such an incredible, like, confident and flamboyant character who comes into their own, and I just really liked his character in that show. In A Little Life, as he's playing JB, he plays a character that is certainly more troubled, a little bit harder to like, and one who you can see makes bad decisions on quite a regular basis that hurt the people around them that they supposedly love, and I felt like he embodied that character really well as well. So the people that I had gone in knowing previously, having seen other works, were all really good, but then the rest of the cast was new to me. Now, it was a fairly small cast. I'm trying to count how many people were in it. So we have the four friends, Jude, Willem, JB and Malcolm. We have Harold, we have, so that's 5 characters, we have Andy, who is Jude's doctor, we have Anna, who is Jude's social worker, and then there was one other actor who ended up playing 3 different characters throughout the play, and I think that's everyone. So only 8 actors throughout this production, so a really tight-knit small cast, but they all did such an incredible job. And I was so, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised because I had high expectations going in, but I felt very affirmed watching the play that the characters all were just embodied so well by the actors. 2 in particular stood out to me who I didn't know going in, and they were the actors playing Harold, who I thought just was such a commanding stage presence, who was really powerful to watch on stage, but also had like a really soft paternal vibe about him. I felt like he was just so perfect for that role. And then the other actor played 3 different characters, and he essentially embodied the villainy in the production, and he played Caleb, Brother Luke and Dr. Trailer throughout the production, and I can only summarise this man's acting as absolutely chilling. The way he embodied those characters was stomach churning, so uncomfortable and unpleasant to watch, but that was just testament to how well he played those roles, and I just thought every single one of those actors was perfectly cast and so incredible. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the production itself in terms of like how it came to life on stage. So because it was such a small cast of actors, most of the cast was on stage throughout the entire production, and it was very minimalistic is how I would describe it. So we had actors on stage who were actively part of a scene, and then at other times there would be an active scene taking part and then other actors just doing things in the background. So there was a lot of cooking going on stage, there were people painting, writing at desks, listening to music, sitting down on sofas, and just kind of being almost like active props, almost is the way that I would describe it. So it was a very minimalistic performance, and that meant that everyone was quite involved at all times, and it felt very like all-encompassing in terms of watching the story unfold, because there was just so much going on stage at all times, both the immediate scene that you were involved in and then what was happening on the periphery. So I thought it was really interesting. Not much changed with the set, and yet it felt like so much was going on at the same time. So it managed to convey a really full cast of characters without actually having that much happening, if that makes any sense at all. The next thing I want to talk about is obviously probably the big question, is like how it compared to the book and how faithful the adaptation was. Now, reading this book, and anyone else who's read it will know that it's obviously really chunky. So the first thing to say would be that the play is quite long. It was, I think, 3 hours and 20 minutes of actual playtime, and then a 20-minute intermission. So you're in the theatre for pretty much like 4 hours straight. And even still, I felt like there were so many details and things that were obviously in the book's pages that couldn't be brought to life on stage without being really on the nose. And there were certain elements where we had monologues and gaps filled in by people doing like more breaking the fourth wall and narration style speaking rather than being involved in dialogue, and I think that helped to kind of like fill the gaps and give context for things that weren't really obvious. But it just goes without saying that there is just so much detail in any book, never mind one of this size, that you just can't possibly convey everything on stage or on screen without being too obvious or clumsy with it. So I think it managed to stay faithful in a way that felt right for the medium that the story was being told in. Now, the thing that I went in with the most questions about was how it was going to do timeline, because we only had a really small cast of characters, and they of course are the same age the whole time that we're watching them on stage. But in terms of the book, we're following these characters from when they're in their 20s to when they're like much older, I think like in their 60s, and then we also have flashbacks to Jude's childhood, and I knew that the actors were staying the same throughout all of those different timelines. And I don't know exactly how they did it, because nothing changed in terms of the characters' appearance, their costumes, or anything like that, and yet somehow you just got this sensation that, particularly when James Norton was playing Jude as a child, he managed to convey that youthful experience so authentically that you kind of forget that you're looking at like a fully grown man. And the actor that was playing Brother Luke, who happened to be in most of the scenes with Jude as a child, also just managed to somehow make James Norton seem so small, even though he's like quite a tall man, which again added to his like childlike nature in those scenes. So I felt like somehow it just worked, even though nothing was actually changing visually to indicate that the characters had changed age or that we were shifting between timelines or anything like that. But it just somehow worked and felt completely natural as you were watching it. So I think it was really well done in that sense, and the characters were able to just mould to the age and the time period that they were in almost effortlessly. And with that said, there were also a lot of instances where we had both past and present going on at the same time, with Jude as kind of like an anchor and various characters kind of indicating like flashbacks and present day situations, and he was kind of just this centre to the whole piece, but everything was happening around him. And again, I wasn't sure how that was going to work and how different timelines were going to be conveyed, but for me, I think it worked really well, and I had no complaints about it in terms of like following the narrative or having it impact my experience and understanding of what I was watching. I think the final thing that I wanted to say is that obviously, again, the book is a really emotional experience, and I think that is because the level of detail that you are reading is so confronting, and it is impossible not to be moved by what you're reading because it is just so horrific. I think watching it was in a way less emotional because it is just not as detailed. Like, you obviously understand what is happening and what you're seeing, but the emotional experience that Jude is going through isn't quite as confronting because you're not having to read every single detail of it. So I didn't find watching it as emotionally raw as reading it was. It didn't sort of bring me to tears until the very, very end of the play, when everything was over and the actors just came to stand on stage and they did their bow and everyone stood up, they had a standing ovation. And that genuinely moved me and was far more emotional than I ever anticipated. And I think it's because it was a really physically demanding production, because all of the characters were on stage pretty much the whole time, and they were also involved in the plot and in the like physicality of the play, that you just got this sense as they like took their bow how much they had given to the performance, and like seeing all of the actors stood there as themselves rather than as the characters, I just found really moving, and I wasn't expecting to feel that way, but I found that myself like actually getting choked up while I saw them doing their bows, because it just felt so, like, I felt so lucky to be there watching it. I don't know, that makes me sound like such a sap, I'm sure, but it was just amazing. Now that is such a long section that I've been filming, and yet still only a whistle stop through the experience, which was just so incredible. But I just couldn't feel luckier to have had the experience to go and watch this adaptation. So yeah, wow, so glad that I got to do that. Now, without taking up too much more of your time, I do just want to give you quick reading updates on the rest of my reading. I finished reading One True Loves just before going into the theatre, managed to read it with my lunch yesterday, sitting outside in the sunshine in London, which was so nice. And I think this was such a good book to read alongside what was obviously like a really emotionally intensive day, because it was a romance with a fun twist. It was obviously still kind of emotional at times, but I felt like it was overall quite an empowering and uplifting experience that kind of gives you permission as a reader to recognise that time and experiences change you, and it's okay to be a different person than you were 10 years ago, for example. And I felt like it was just like a really affirming reading experience, and I would definitely recommend it for anyone who is just looking for a romance that is not super fluffy and predictable, but also does still tick that box of being quite nice and heartwarming at the same time. And then because I had finished reading One True Loves, that gave me time to start reading Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone on the train home. I feel like, particularly the Philosopher's Stone, it was really nice to be reading it on a train, because I feel like the Hogwarts Express is such a big part of this particular story, being that it is Harry's first experience travelling to Hogwarts. I managed to make it through to page 121, which means that I am roughly halfway through this book, and it is my plan of action to finish this one this evening. So I'll give you a further update when I do finish it, but I think this first one is such an easy read. You slot right back into the magical world, and it is just like such a cozy and comforting reading experience. So I'm very happy to be rereading this series again. So it is now Monday and a brand new week, and I'm feeling like this week, for my own sanity, has got to be about getting back into a good routine, because last week was of course so wonderful but also very disjointed. The week started with a bank holiday, then a couple of work days, then a cheeky trip to London, and then another work day, and then the weekend. And I feel like because the week was split into so many different chunks, my mind and body just could not keep up with what was going on, and all week I just couldn't get into a good rhythm. It just felt very all over the place, which is fine every once in a while, but for me personally, I often feel like if you have one week that feels a little bit off kilter, It can be very easy to just like slip out of good habits and good routines and just like get into a bit of a rut. So I'm kind of being conscious of that, and this week I'm making like a proper effort to just like do all of the things that I know will make me feel good and do all of my good habits to get myself back into a proper routine. But really, I think the main thing that I'm doing this week, which is out of my control but so necessary, is just a normal 5-day working week, because I feel like that is the main thing that will make me feel like it's normal, and then hopefully just set me back on track with all of my other routines. But in the subject of routines and doing things that you know will be good for you and will make you feel good, this evening I'm cooking an insanely early dinner. That's not what's going to make me feel good, but it's for a good cause, because I'm eating early because at 7:30 p.m. I'm going out to a yoga class, so I'm adding something back into my routine that I haven't done in ages. But I know that I always feel so good after doing yoga. It is one of my favourite things, but over the last 6 months or so I've just let it completely slip from my routine and I haven't been to any classes. A little bit of context for anyone that doesn't know, I am actually a qualified yoga teacher, and I was teaching yoga like regularly up until last summer, but then I changed jobs, and I had previously been doing a 4-day-a-week job, which meant that I had what I felt like was enough time to still teach yoga and also just balance like life and socialising and rest on top of that. But then I changed to my current job, which is a 5-day-a-week job, and I absolutely love it. But when I started this job, it just became clear to me that I wasn't going to be able to manage to teach yoga, do my full-time job, see friends and family, and just like have time to myself as well. And so something was going to have to give, and unfortunately that thing was yoga teaching. But as a side effect of that, I felt like because I had stopped teaching, I also wasn't going into the studio anymore to just like go to classes as a student, and I don't really love practicing yoga at home. I definitely prefer to be in the studio. So long story short, I haven't done yoga in ages and I miss it so dearly. So we moved house a couple of months ago, and I've been eyeing up a local studio, and this evening I'm finally just going out and doing it, because I feel like it's one of those things where you can think about it for ages, but sometimes you just have to be like strict with yourself and just say, go and do the thing. So that's what I'm doing this evening. I'm going out to a yoga class, and I feel like that is going to be so wonderful. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I love the studio, because if I do, then that means that yoga can be part of my regular routine again, which I would love. So there we go, getting back in a good routine, and I feel like it's probably time to finish up this vlog with one final reading update, because despite the chaos of last week and all of the different things that were going on, it ended up being such a great reading week. And yesterday evening Jay was on the PlayStation, so I decided to just get curled up on the sofa and settle in for the second half of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, which felt like the perfect way to kind of wind down from what was a really busy week and just get lost in a cozy, nostalgic, really familiar story, and just like it was the perfect way to start like calming myself down and ready for the week ahead. And I really did enjoy it. I will say the Philosopher's Stone is not my favourite of the Harry Potter books or films. I don't know if it's anyone's really. I feel like it is a really lovely introduction into the wizarding world, and to say that it is so short, just over 200 pages, I feel like you do get quite a lot of detail and context that's obviously really important for the rest of the series going forward. So I think it is such a good foundation for the rest of the books, but equally it is so quick and it feels like it's over in a flash, and I just feel like it is a nice book and one that I enjoy, but certainly not a favourite. But I'm so excited to continue my reread of the series and see which one is my favourite. When it comes to the films, I think my favourite two, and I struggle to choose between them, is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which I think is the one that I've probably seen the most amount of times. I used to watch that on repeat when I was younger. And then the third one, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which I just think is cinematically so beautiful to watch. So those are my favourite of the films, although of course I love them all. But with the books, I can't really remember which one is my favourite, so I'm excited to find out, and I'm definitely going to be starting reading the Chamber of Secrets soon. But all that to say, it was a really lovely thing to reread this book this week, and I felt like it was the right time. I looked in Goodreads and the last time I'd read this book was in 2019, so it's been quite a few years, and I feel like it's the perfect time for a reread, especially with the news about the HBO adaptation. So there we go. Hope you've enjoyed watching this vlog and hearing my thoughts on Taylor Jenkins Reid, Harry Potter, and also A Little Life, the theatre adaptation, which was undoubtedly the star of the show in this vlog. And as a little reminder that Anna Louisa did sponsor today's video, and you can use my code KiraFoster20 to get 20% off if you click on the link in the description box. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.